So, first off, my name is Randy Weingarten. I'm the president of the AFT. I'm very honored that the NEA and the AFT, and to my left is Becky Pringle, the indefatigable president of the NEA, and to my right is David Hoke, and we'll introduce everyone else in a little while. We have survivors from Parkland, from Newtown. We have parents. We have teachers. We have lots of folks from Texas. We have community activists. So what we're going to do in the next half an hour is we're going to talk about our lived experience. And Becky's going to start and ask people as they introduce themselves, because we only have we only have basically 40 minutes to really talk about why we're here and what we're trying to accomplish and who each one of us are. We are in Houston today because there's really two very, very, very different approaches to how to solve these problems. Thank you. Okay. There's some of us who want to make sure that, I would actually argue probably everybody wants to make sure that people are safe. I cannot imagine there is anyone in the world, in the country, who wants to see what happened in Texas this week, who wants to see what happened in Buffalo this week, who wants to see mass shootings. I can't imagine, I'm going to take what Jimmy Kimmel said, that there's anyone in the world that wants that. But there are really different approaches to how to solve. And you have people who have had lived experience, who have been in the trenches, who understand what it's like when there's a mass shooting in their school, and have a lot of ideas about what to do. And that's why we wanted to pull together this roundtable first, before the community gets together at City Hall at between 11:15 and 11 o'clock today to say, it's enough. And we need to actually, once and for all, make sure that people are safe from gun violence. And so with that, I just want to turn it over to my dear friend and colleague, Becky Pringle, to start us in the roundtable. Thank you, Becky.
Thank you, Randy. I can't think of anyone else I would rather be in this righteous fight with. I am Becky Pringle. I taught science for over 30 years before I started my leadership journey at the national level. Just like you, my heart is breaking just like you. So many of you, you had to answer questions from your kids, in my case, my 10-year-old grandson. Just like you. Randy and I are in this moment, again, not just saying it's enough, but asking the question, what are we prepared to do? What are we prepared to do? We can't leave it at, here we are again. We can't leave it at, we've tried. We can't leave it at being in this space where we have to face our children again and say that we weren't able to make changes so that they could live. And we won't. That's why we wanted to meet with you around this table. Randy and I have talked a lot and we have lots of ideas, but we wanted those of you who have not only been through these tragedies, but stood up and continued to be courageous in standing up and telling your story and taking action. We wanted to hear from you about what you're doing, what you're thinking about in this moment, what you need from us, so that as we take these next steps together as leaders, as people together in community, to take advantage of the power and the strength that comes through collective action. That we are bringing your voices into every room, every space, into every opportunity to this time make that difference. So I want to begin by going around the room, and I think I'm going to start over here. Please tell us who you are, and then share with us what you are thinking about in this moment when you think about the next steps that we must take together.
Sure. My name is George Tadderis. I am the co-executive director of March for Our Lives Houston, and I am very saddened that this is the occasion that we are here for. You know, this happened 4 years ago. This happened at Columbine. This has happened so many times, and obviously gun violence is not a one-dimensional issue. School shootings are only one aspect of it, but the good thing is that we're here, and we're here to do something. I know we heard our very own governor from our state claiming that nothing can be done, nothing can be changed in terms of, you know, preventive measures relating to firearms to limit the epidemic of gun violence. And what I'm thinking about is, you know, we're here today. We know we have the country behind us. We know the vast majority of Americans know that something needs to be done about this, and that's what makes me happy. That's what keeps me content, and that's what gives me hope for the future. Thank you.
Hello, everyone. My name is Mariah Cooley, and I serve on the board for March for Our Lives. And just sharing the same sentiments that George just shared, I couldn't agree more that I'm heartbroken to be here today. We shouldn't have to be here. This shouldn't be a thing anymore. We've been fighting in this movement for so long. Some of you have been fighting in this movement longer than I've been alive. And yet here we are still fighting to end gun violence. But I do have hope that especially after what happened here in Texas and what happened in Buffalo, New York, that everyone will wake up and realize that every second we waste arguing is a second more that we risk another mass shooting.
Good morning. My name is G2 Brown. I serve as the National Director of the Journey for Justice Alliance, a national organization of community-based organizations committed to equity and public education. And I would just say that as someone from the south side of Chicago who has witnessed gun violence, has lost young people, has touched the bodies of young people who were in caskets, who should have been thriving, I think the question comes to us is, how long will we tolerate people betraying our children in our name? And I just believe that the true values of a society can be reflected on how it treats its children. And a society that does not invest in its children betrays its children. And whether a child is white and is in a rural part of the United States, but feels invisible and does not feel seen or heard, or whether a child is in the inner city of Detroit and they go to a starved out neighborhood school and they are treated as a criminal from the time they are born and they feel hopelessness, that hopelessness is fueled by the accessibility of guns. That hopelessness is fueled by the import of drugs into our communities. And at some point, we have to be men and women enough to actually look those children in the face and say, we got you, and mean it, and mean it. I'm a father. I have a son who I fear for. When I was a child, I was able to catch the bus at the age of 10 years old, all over the city of Chicago. Today, my son cannot go outside without me. And so I think that the challenge before all of us is for not for this to be another media moment, but for us to truly tell people that you are not going to betray our children on our watch, and mean it. Thank you.
I am Sarah Lerner. I am a teacher at Marjorie Stoneman Douglas High School in Parkland, Florida. I kept 15 students safe in my classroom while a gunman opened fire, killing 17, injuring 17, and traumatizing an entire community. I still teach at the school. I am a parent as well, and I see the toll that being a generation raised under school shootings has taken on these children who I educate and who I live with. In the hopes of making change, Abby Clements, who's also here, and Sari Beth Rosenberg and I created Teachers Unified to End Gun Violence to give a voice to what we felt was lacking in this space, because we are the ones who help the children every day. The baggage and everything that they come into school carrying, because gun violence isn't just school shootings. It's violence in communities of color. It's suicide by gun violence. It's domestic violence. It's all of that. And there's so much that enters that classroom with those children that goes unsaid outside of the classroom, but we're the ones who hear it and help them and absorb all of that. So I'm a proud AFT and NEA member. I'm a 20-year educator, and I will keep fighting this fight until I have no fight left.
Wow, this is a moment, isn't it? And it started with these two youth. This is who we represent in this country.
Anna, just introduce yourself.
Oh, my bad. I'm Anna King. I'm the National PTA President. I live in Oklahoma. I have 11 grandchildren that I'm concerned about every single day. And listening to these young people right here just motivated me even more. To hear them say that this has been happening long before they've been born says enough is enough. Thinking about what just happened this week. 19 precious babies in the classroom with a person who barricade themselves in the classroom with these children, no regard to life. What were these children thinking? What were these teachers thinking when they covered these children? Think about the parents that stood outside and sat on the curb waiting to hear about if their children are safe. Some having to give DNA because they couldn't even tell who their children were. We can't keep saying thoughts and prayers. We can pray all day long. It's time for action, policy, and change. That is the only way that we're going to make sure that our children are safe. And being a parent and a grandparent and speaking in behalf of 2 million members across this country, I can say enough is enough, and we're sick and tired of being sick and tired. And we love to be at the table, and that is why I love that we're having this discussion, and you're having parent voices, teachers' voices, youth voices, all at the table. Right now, in this moment, we have to have action. We can no longer let this go by, because our children are our future, and they cannot reach their fullest potential if they are not in a safe school, if they are not in a safe community, if they do not have the resources to be successful, if they do not have help with mental health, accessibility to mental health. We have to do this now. We cannot wait later. We shouldn't be here. We were here 10 years ago with Sandy Hook. What has changed? Nothing. Right now is the moment to create change.
My name is Ovidia Molina. I am the Texas State Teachers Association president, but I'm also an educator. Taught middle school in Alief ISD, which is not too far away from here. Every time I hear of another school shooting, every time I hear of another school shooting. It breaks my heart. As Anna said, Mariah and George started us off with hope. But it should not be their burden to carry to make adults take action to save our children's lives. I love your words. I appreciate everything that you're doing so that our students feel safe, our educators are safe, our communities are safe. How many times do our children have to be the role models for the adults to pay attention and do what's right? What's it going to take for lawmakers to stop and value their lives? We are sick and tired of talking about this. It's an unimaginable loss. The children in Uvalde are going to carry this for the rest of their lives. The families, the community. I heard an educator say that her little town was no longer going to be known as the honey capital, something happy. That community is forever going to be remembered by this tragedy. That is not the first tragedy, so it shouldn't have been the last tragedy. We should have done something by now. If lawmakers that are stalling ways to protect our students keep stalling, we need to have a change in those lawmakers. If you're not as angry as our students are, we need you to get angry, and we need you to show up, and we need you to bring about some change. We can't have one more.
Hello. My name is David Hogg. I'm a co-founder of March for Our Lives, the largest youth-led gun violence prevention organization in the United States. Some of my fellow colleagues, George and Mariah, are over there. I think this time can be different, and I'm a very cynical person. But I genuinely believe that this time can be different. And the reason why I say that isn't just because I just want to feel hopeful. It's because I genuinely think this time can be different. And right now, at the moment that our country is in, politically, in terms of the work that young people and older people have done, in the time since Sandy Hook, in the time since Columbine, in the time that those parents have been working for decades to bring us to this point, the NRA is at its weakest point in American history because of a letter that March for Our Lives helped file with Attorney General Tish James in New York to investigate discrepancies within their filing. On top of that, we have the most pro-gun safety House, Senate, and President ever in American history. I believe that this time can be different, but what's going to make it different isn't us using the same stories that we've done before where we say, you know, we need to just go out there and simply just vote. The reality is we have been voting. We voted at one of the highest rates. When I was 17 years old and the shooting in Parkland, Florida happened, one of the first things that I said was that we are the kids, you are the adults. You need to do something. And you know what the adults told us? They said, okay, you're about to be 18, you need to go and vote because young people don't vote. And I said, okay, let's do that. And we did. We voted at one of the highest rates in American history in a non-presidential midterm ever. And we voted out more NRA-backed politicians than ever before in American history in Congress. Then we played a critical role as young people to generate the highest youth voter turnout ever. in American history, ever. So I don't want to hear that young people aren't doing our jobs. We are. We are showing up. We are doing our jobs better than, frankly, any of you in this room did in your generations, because we voted at higher rates than you did. We're doing our jobs. We need the adults to do their jobs too, the older adults, because now we're the adults, and we're not going to let the next generation take this on. And the way that we can make this different, and this is a call out to Republicans and gun owners, we all agree. I have talked to a lot of people who vehemently think that they disagree with me. People who call me horrible things online, call me horrible things in person. Even people here in Houston that I've talked to who marched and counter-protested us at 18 years old outside of our event with AR-15s, the same gun that was used to kill 17 of my classmates and teachers. And we've seen used time and time again. I talked to those men, and even in those instances, we were able to agree that clearly something needs to be done about gun violence. I need gun owners to stand out and agree that we need action and speak out now so that they know, so that our politicians know that the NRA does not represent them. Because my father is a gun owner. I've grown up around guns my entire life. Most of my family members are gun owners. Many Americans are gun owners, and the NRA does not represent them, but we need you to speak out to make this time different, because it can be. But we need you to speak out. I've had a lot of internal conversations as well with different Republicans. Look, I'm not going to lie. We don't agree on everything. That's not the point, though. We have to figure out what we can agree on for the sake of our children, even if small, though, and move forward. Because the reality is the cost of not making any progress isn't just one life. It's 45,000 gun deaths a year, and the continuing of these school shootings again and again. So what I am calling for is for us to demand action, not just from our politicians, but from ourselves as Americans, to find where is the common ground that we can agree on, and we found it. We found it. There's over 85% support for universal background checks and red flag laws. We passed those in the wake of the shooting in Parkland, Florida, in a deeply Republican legislature, and we raised the age to 21. We can do the same thing in Congress, but I'm going to need everybody's help in this room to do that. And the way that we do that is we have to stay engaged on this. We have to have people showing up at their Senate offices. We have to have people showing up in Congress, and especially after the cameras go away. Because the last thing that I will say is if even just 5% of educators in the United States showed up every year in their state capitals who lobby for gun safety, I would not be talking to you right now 10 years from now. Because we could have gun deaths in 10 years if we did that. The NRA is not just effective because they spend money. They're effective because they show up, and we need to show up proactively and not reactively after these things. That is what we are here to do, and I need you to stay engaged when these cameras go away and continue working on this every single month, not just leading up to the election, but I need you to run for office as well. And I'm not talking about Congress. I'm talking about your state legislature. If you are in Arizona, if you are in Pennsylvania, if you are in Michigan especially, I need you to go and work on your state legislative races, to go and help us change those states to be pro-gun safety states, because we can and we will. This is going to take time. There's no single policy that's ever going to totally eradicate gun violence, the same way we haven't eradicated lung cancer. But we have significantly reduced the rate that people get lung cancer. And we did that by addressing the industry and addressing why people want to smoke. We need to address how somebody gets a gun, why they want to pick up a gun, and the fact that 2/3 of gun deaths are suicides, and address how we enforce these laws. And we can do that, for example, by appointing Steve Dettelbach to be the ATF director. So please stay engaged, and don't wait for permission, just do something. I get a lot of DMs from people that are like, oh, I have this idea. Great, run with it. Don't wait for permission from me or anybody else, just do it. Whatever your idea is, get engaged, and stay engaged until I don't have to have these conversations and we don't have to have these conversations anymore.
Hi. I think so. Hi, my name is Abby Clements. This is my 30th year teaching elementary school. I was a second grade teacher at Sandy Hook School on December 14th, 2012. And I huddled my students just like the teachers did in Uvalde. And the burden I have is that I bear witness to what happens what can happen, what did happen, and what comes in the aftermath. Newtown is Uvalde, is Chicago, is Philly, is Houston. And schools are unsafe working conditions for students and educators. Teachers are walking in every day these days crying, having to field questions from students. We come in and they lock eyes with us because they know, but they don't know what to say, and we don't know what to say. And it's wrong, and working these last almost 10 years to help elevate the voices of teachers has to continue, and it will. And we need to help pave the way for them to tell their stories. And again, not just school shootings, but children are bringing gun violence into their classrooms every day, from domestic violence, threats of domestic violence, what Sarah Lerner was talking about. And woven into those stories, there's poverty, there's homelessness, there's unfair immigration that weighs on parents, racism, all this now with easy access to guns. So I will move forward with all of you and with concerned Americans that this is not okay. We have too many guns in our country, but there are ways that we can make things safer for our students and for our educators and for in our communities. Thank you.
So I am Jackie Anderson, President of the Houston Federation of Teachers. I echo the sentiments of many people who have spoken so far today. We must find common ground. It's not about being a Republican or Democrat. It's about being a human being that values the lives of individuals. It doesn't matter. We've got to come together as human beings to put an end to gun violence. We need policy and change. We don't need thoughts and prayers. Thoughts and prayers are nothing if it continues to go on, and that's what is happening. As an educator and a parent, communities, we are going to have to come together and take the lead, because in Texas, we're being failed by our leaders. So thank you, Randy, for coming here and helping us have this discussion to start to formulate some type of focus and plan that is going to help us try to put an end to this senseless murder of our children and our teachers. As an educator, I never, ever thought that I would hear somebody say, we need to arm teachers. As a grandmother, it chills me to think that my grandchildren will be going to school where a teacher has a gun. I just can't fathom that. I don't want that for my grandchildren. I don't want that for other children. That is, you don't put out a fire with fire. To hear someone say that literally breaks my heart. So I thank you, Randy. Thank you for even thinking enough of us to come to Texas so we can try to come to a place that we can put a stop to this nonsense. This is just totally insane. So I really appreciate this forum. I appreciate having like-minded people in the room so we can do something. And like you say, it's going to take more than a vote. We are going to have to lead the way. Educators, parents, community, we are going to have to lead the way. Thank you.
Hello, everyone. My name is Dr. Nancy Vera. I'm the president of the Corpus Christi American Federation of Teachers here in Texas, and I'm also a member of the Latino Issues Task Force for the American Federation of Teachers. Primero, ofrezco mis más sentido pésame a la comunidad y las familias de todo corazón en Uvalde. Y quiero decir que ya basta, no más. Nuestros niños valen más que las carabinas que están tratando de vender para hacer millones de dólares. As Randy said earlier, we've had enough. This hit really close to where I live. And I'm going to tell you that we're not going to take it anymore. We're going to rise up and, with intellect, tell these people who are making money, who are enjoying their greenbacks on gun sales, on automatic weapon sales, that you are not going to make money off of our children and our children's lives. You're not going to spread this carnage anymore. And we're going to rise up in Texas and all over this country, and we're going to make sure that we educate, we make people aware, and that we advocate for what is right for human beings, for the lives of our children. I'll do whatever it takes and go wherever I need to go. And I'm not afraid, and neither is our community.
My name is Glenda Guzman McCall. I am the president of Fort Bend AFT here in Fort Bend County. I'm also a former bilingual teacher in Fort Bend. And I have to tell you, Tuesday, after seeing the faces of those babies that look like my class, who look like the children that I used to protect and in those drills and put them underneath my desk and think about what would happen if this was real, that I would lay my body over those babies. And I have to tell you, I cried myself to sleep Tuesday night. And I woke up Wednesday morning, and I was still crying. But by Wednesday afternoon, I wiped my tears away, and I was resolved that I'm going to do something. My crying, my tears are not going to help. Even my thoughts and prayers are not going to help. But my actions will. My actions will help. So I chose to come and be part of this, and I choose to continue the fight. And now is the time. Now is the time to do it. I used to be in human resources back before I was an educator, and my old boss in the oil and gas industry called me yesterday morning, a stark conservative, and she said, Glenda, I cannot let this happen anymore. You tell me what to do, and I'll follow you. So the time is right. The time is right now. A friend of mine said, well, isn't there a 100 Club that can help these children and these teachers? I said, no, because teachers and students are not supposed to be dying in their classroom. They're not supposed to be dying in the classroom. Now's the time. Now is the time to do something. Wipe the tears away and then do something. Thank you.
Good morning. My name is Sylvia Tanguma. I am the president for McAllen AFT here in Texas. I'm also a member of the Latino Issues Task Force and a member of my local RGV Moms Demand Action Against Gun Violence. And I want to start by saying that I have two of my own children that are in college And I worry for their safety every day, especially for the one that lives in Austin, because there was already previously a shooting that happened in Austin and several stabbings. So with that, the fact that my daughter did a tweet and it said, working in an elementary school shouldn't be a high-risk job. You know, she's an adult, but she is my child, and they see it. The kids see it. My students, when I went to school, I'm also a full-time educator in McAllen. And the students that day, I know they were all in shock. Unfortunately, yesterday, we also had threats. It was just that copycat syndrome throughout the valley, not just in my district, but throughout the valley. And several high school students did get arrested for credible threats. One of them had a hit list. A couple of them were found with guns in the valley, and there is no reason why a student should have to worry, a parent should have to worry, or anyone at campus should have to worry for their safety when you're going to school to learn. We need to make that stop. And the only way that we're going to make that stop is by going to our lawmakers. They need to make that change, and we need to push them. We need to organize, and we need to continue advocating. School funding, at least here in Texas, is cut every budget year. So our school board, as public school boards, our school boards have to choose between, am I going to make payroll, or am I going to keep my students and staff safe? That's not right. That's wrong, and it's wrong at every level. And it needs to stop, because why shouldn't schools be safe, and why can't they be safe and make payroll? When you have to choose between safety and payroll, that's wrong. That's wrong, and it's on our lawmakers, and we need to make sure that that changes, because funding needs to be where it should be to keep safety for everyone and to be able to educate. Thank you.
Good morning. My name is Cristina Quintero, and I am a mother of HISD and also a member of Community Voices for Public Education. I want to start off by saying something that constantly plays in my mind since this happened in Uvalde that it just left me at a loss for words. Our governor said it could have been worse. It could have been worse. My 8-year-old child heard that, and she was able to comprehend the callous, empty words that he said, okay? One of our senators said, you know, maybe they should have one door, one entry door, so that all the students can be safe. Another one that was there, and I believe it was either Ken Paxton or Dan Patrick, said, you know, we need metal detectors in our schools. Our children in Texas, for all of our Texas educators, we understand this. Our children are constantly pushed against the rails for testing, more testing, and to perform. You know, I heard another remark where it was like, instead of sending a wish list for the teachers to have books and toys in their classrooms, they need to have those Barracuda bar doors and bulletproof curtains for their windows. What kind of asinine remark is that? Mm-hmm. I should not have to go to my child's teacher next year and say, hey, how good of a shot are you? That is the most ridiculous thing. Our children deserve to flourish. They deserve to learn. They deserve to be filled with creativeness and be young scientists, doctors, you know, educators, engineers, construction workers. Not have to worry about whether they're going to get there tomorrow and if they're coming home alive. My daughter, the day after that it happened, she came home crying and she said, Mommy, will that happen to us? Could I die? Am I going to die? And I said, no, baby. And I responded with the most, you know, and I took it very lightly to respond to her because I didn't know what could happen. But I told her, things will be okay. Why? Because I value our educators that are there at my child's school, because I value the principal that is consistently checking after our students, and because she asked me, Mommy, sit outside at the school. Just stay there the whole day for me. Make sure that we're okay. And you know what I did? I sat there the next morning, the whole freaking day, just to give her that peace of mind. Our teachers are overworked. Our principals are overworked. Our staffs are overworked. As a volunteer at my children's school, I see that they are going through a lot. And it is heartbreaking that those people in office, that are governor, that are senators, that are representatives, that are pro-gun, but not pro-sensible gun laws, are there and just willing to give us empty words. What I want to see from this, and what I will do personally, is organize parents, organize teachers, principals, community workers, and prepare. So once our legislative time comes and we're back in session, we're right there, knocking on those doors and demanding action from them. You know, my 6-year-old turns 7 tomorrow, and I feel guilty that I am able to have a birthday party for him, because there are children that will never have another birthday. It doesn't matter whether it's my child, my neighbor's child, you know, my friend's child. Any child in our country, any child in the world should not have to worry about going to school and whether they're going to be harmed by somebody, and they should be able to learn. It's heartbreaking. You know, we've constantly had our children go through this ringer of performing through COVID, performing through these tests, and now we're going to expect them to perform through gun violence? We cannot allow our children to realize that this is a norm. We cannot become desensitized to this. We cannot make this like, oh, it's just another, you know, incident, because it shouldn't be an incident. This should have not happened. All I can think is this weekend I get to celebrate my son's birthday. And other families, 19 families, cannot kiss their babies goodnight. And it more than it irritates me, it infuriates me that, you know, they think, oh, it's just one incident. Oh, after this, what else can we do? There's a lot that we can do, and we need to show up. So any parent that hears this, any teacher, any community member that sees this, we need to be there and demand action, and when they fail us, we need to hold them accountable. Thank you.
Thank you. My name is Rick Levy. I'm the president of the Texas AFL-CIO, and together with Secretary Treasurer Leonard Aguilar and Hani Khalil from the Harris County Gulf Coast, I just want to say how humbled we are to be part of this conversation, and thank both of you presidents for bringing us together. The stories that you bring to this table, the emotion that you bring to this table, the history that you bring to this table, anybody who hears it cannot be unchanged. I know that certainly is my experience. And I just want to say 2 quick points. Number one, that the hundreds of thousands of union members in this state that we represent hear you, understand you, and will be with you going forward. We have and that includes, by the way, a lot of gun owners. A lot of gun owners. But we've come together and we've determined that that doesn't mean that we stand on the sidelines of this fight. And so number one, we're with you. And number two, I'll say this. Unfortunately, it's not just schools. We represent people who work in grocery stores. We represent people who deliver the mail. We represent people who work in movie theaters. And it's just unacceptable that you go to work and you have to think, is this going to happen in my workplace today? Gun violence is a schools issue, it's an education issue, it's a community issue, it's a workplace issue, and it's up to all of us to do what needs to be done to make it change. Thank you.
So I'm going to, because we're going to do a press conference at City Hall with the religious community of Houston and of Texas. And this is about today, all of us showing that there is a different way. With the passion that we've just heard from people who see every single angle and effect of gun violence. Students, parents, grandparents, unions, kids who survived, teachers who survived. And you hear from everyone here that yes, we have to find the common ground. In a democracy, we have to find the common ground. And if we can't find it and people hide like they are in the NRA, we have to make sure that they are held accountable. But first, let's find the common ground. Let's have the energy. Let's stay engaged. Let's not be silent. That's what I think we've heard from people today, yes?
And they won't be silent.
And as Becky just said, they won't be silent. What we are practicing today, and I hear this from my colleague and friend Becky Pringle all the time, you start by listening. Becky says this all the time. And today, in the 45 minutes that we have had, we have started by listening. And now, we'll go to City Hall together, and we will, with ministers and the mayor, talk about what our next steps are. Thank you, everyone.